This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome into Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158, alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you, producer Justin Emery at the controls. Got a great 2 hours on deck. And you last night were out at the first MLB game hosted here in Vegas in 30 years.
Yep.
It did not go the way I had hoped, but my God, what a bonkers, insane game that you got to be around for.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a very good environment, akin to hanging out in like Toshiba Plaza in that area before a Vegas Golden Knights game. And look, for people who are not out here, it's obviously a hyper-local story just because pro sports are finally here. It's been a while. We've had the Raiders, we've had the Knights and whatnot, but just really cool to be around an environment where regular season baseball, where the games were going to matter, were being played. It was at a AAA park. It was at a fun environment that we'll maybe see continue. But just in terms of the vibe, and as I call myself, I think I've told you this before, I believe you could speak to this because you see me out and about. I am an energy chameleon. I like to match the environments that I am in. And so I was vibing.
You're getting it going.
Yep. I may or may not, because I work in local media, have been gifted a athletics jersey, a Major League Baseball quality one that I may or may not have worn with Stomper, the mascot, while I was hanging out yesterday. But no, it was a good time. Fun game. Hope to continue to get out there throughout the week as well. But Major League Baseball, man, it's going to be here before you know it.
I know you say it's a hyper-local story, but it became national with the result yesterday. For anybody who missed it, the total in that game was 11. There were 11 home runs scored in that game. Jeez Louise. As somebody who bet the under, I will say I at least...
Not to rub it in, but we tried to tell you.
I know, you did. Well, I got off of it at least. Like the perks of live betting are... Guys, I took it over 18.5 mid-game, so it wasn't fun at first when you placed that bet, but then yes, ended up getting there. 15-14, your final, needed 12 innings to be decided. 29 runs in all. 16 ABS challenges too, 11 of which were overturned. It was very chaotic.
It was a chaotic game. It was a ridiculous contest. How about this? A couple of fun facts about last night between the Brewers and the Athletics. Brewers were the last team to win a 15-14 game. How about that? That's from MLB.com. August 17th, 2019, it was at the Washington Nationals. The 11 combined home runs, most in a game since May 4th, 2025. So it's not even been that long. Both the Brewers and Athletics totaled 16-plus hits. Last season, only 6 teams both recorded and allowed 16-plus hits, one of which was... the Brewers. And then this was the longest regular season game since 2024 in September, 4 hours, 16 minutes. There was a Marlins Twins game that was about 2 minutes longer. So interesting, fun game. But I'll say this as we spin this forward to today, as we were texting a little bit earlier, total for today opened up 11.5, immediately went up to 13. Some spots, like at FanDuel, are 13.5. Other spots, like Circa, 13 over minus 125. And I would say there's an argument to be made that you could probably still bet this game over. I mean, like, it's a AAA park, Stormy, but like we talked about it yesterday at length. To reiterate, as you saw, those jet streams that go straight out to right field, right center, there is nothing blocking that outside. Yeah. It is a clear path all the way out. So when the wind comes through, and it got a little bit windier yesterday, those things will carry. Fly balls will go to the warning track and beyond. Those guys were making hard contact. There's a small slipstream, too, that goes down the third baseline that if you catch it, you can get that, too. It is every bit of a AAA park that is made for offense. And with major league hitters, dude, I mean, that's going to be a nightmare.
And it's just going to get hotter as we get into the weekend, too. And it'll be 6 games in all that are played out here at Las Vegas Ballpark. For context, though, again, on that total, sitting in the 13 range. Cubs-Rockies is 12.5 with your boy Tomoyuki Shigano on the hill today, if that gives you any context for just, like, how high that number really is. In fairness, however, to defend myself quickly on the bet yesterday, can we also acknowledge, like, 80 to 90% of my handicap was that Kyle Harrison is a really, really rock-solid pitcher, and he has been unbelievable. He was abysmal. Hadn't allowed more than 2 earned runs in a single start all year, had 4 home runs on the season, 2 of which came in his first 4 starts. Last night, 7 runs, 3 homers allowed, pulled after recording just 7 outs. Okay, like my handicap was all based in this dude who got crushed.
He was, and he's also, as we hit on, look, he was both guys yesterday that started were fly ball pitchers in a park like that. Today, it looks like,
how many 400-plus footers did we get yesterday?
There were a lot. I mean, they were
8.
They were crushing it. That's the other part about this, too. Remember, familiarity. This is the A's AAA affiliate. it. So the guys that are hitting there as major leaguers are familiar with the park as well.
Yeah.
They played there. They came up through there. Some of them did. So there's that aspect to it. Gasser's going to start the game today for the Milwaukee Brewers. I bring that up only because Gasser, now it's a small sample size, but he is a fly ball pitcher up to this point too. So maybe Milwaukee gets a little bit of, the A's get a little bit of payback here. JT Ginn's been a pretty good ground ball pitcher, keeps the ball down, really positive ground ball to fly ball ratio of about 1.3. So maybe a better fate for the Athletics. But if you're going to toss some fly ball guys out there in a park like this, that is going to be a recipe for disaster, as we found out yesterday.
Okay, we'll talk more Major League Baseball a little bit later on in the show, but so much more still to get to as we set the table for the program. Time for the Rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
Excited to get into a little World Cup discussion with Anthony Dabbundo, soccer analyst over at The Ringer. That's going to come up in about 30 minutes, and there is one team I'm very curious his opinion on that. It seems like a dark horse that some people are discussing, although dark horse among the 7 realistic candidates to win the World Cup, that is.
Is it Portugal?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
you've heard it over and over again, right?
I've heard it quite a few times as well. Mitch and I talked about it a little bit on Pod to the Futures today. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what he has to say about that and what you're looking at for some of these groups. We haven't really dove into some of the groups and the group winners and what you could play there. So that'll be a ton of fun. I know there's one that kind of surprised me when I was looking at some of his bets, including a surprise team to make it to the round of 16. So we'll see if they can actually make that trek. But just some general thoughts, too, is the more you read about this, the more you read about, and Mike Palm brought this up to us last week, the effects of the heat and, I'll use your term, maybe some of these soft Europeans not really handling the heat particularly well, and the humidity in the spots that they're playing. So how that affects some of these games and some of the tighter contested games, maybe not some of these lopsided affairs, but when these good clubs go at it or these good teams go at it, how that's going to impact some of the scoring and what we'll see in those matchups.
We'll also preview Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Vegas up 2-1, and for a series most of us thought would be defensive and low scoring, the 25 combined goals are the most through 3 games in a Cup Final since 1981. Will our Cup runneth over again tonight? Total still available 5.5 some places, the flat 6 at most. Coming up at noon, Stanley Cup champ and NHL on ESPN analyst Eric Johnson is going to stop by the program, give us his thoughts.
We haven't really seen this market budge on these totals, huh? They've been kind of, after game 1, I think 6, well, you can correct me, you keep more track of this, but 6 is unshaded under has kind of been like the prevalent total in the last couple of games. So, maybe we should. I mean, shouldn't there just be 6s across the board? I don't know. But
7+ goals in every game so far.
We also don't know who's going to start in goal, and I think that might impact how you're looking at this. So
definitely part of the discussion. We'll also have our Conn, Smythe, and NBA MVP finals ladder updates today. Speaking of the NBA, obviously that's where we got to get it going today after what was another wild one last night. And they say a series doesn't start until someone wins on the road. All we've seen through 3 games is the road team handling business. Road, sweet road. Knicks 13-game win streak snapped, their first loss since April 23rd. 115-111 for San Antonio. They win as a 1.5-point dog.
Yeah, 32 points from Victor Wembanyama to get the win there. 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 11 of 18 shooting. Spurs put forth in 3 games their most efficient output on offense of the series so far. So that's really going to help you out. Shoot about 35% from 3, so it's not like they did anything crazy, but it's the offensive efficiency that really changed for San Antonio here. Stephon Castle, arguably, even though he had like 9 fewer points than Victor Wembanyama, one could argue the more effective of the two in terms of his overall impact because of what he did on defense. And what did we talk about at the beginning of the series, which we saw? This is going to be pretty interesting. You didn't think, or at least I didn't, that you had many options to attack the Knicks' biggest weakness on defense, which was Jalen Brunson. Stephon Castle went at him time and time again yesterday and exposed him as the smallest defender that he is. They can't really hold up when he is being targeted in some of these tight games. Castle showed that you could do that. Harper did it to him a couple of times as well. So you do wonder if now they're going to be a little bit more confidence here in allowing Castle to do his thing against Brunson as the series moves along. But pretty simple, man. When you can get more efficient on offense, you're going to win some games. And that's exactly what they did. And Victor Wembanyama deserves some credit here. Only 4 3-point attempts in the game, Stormy. He was not floating around on the perimeter. He was not doing, the tired, I just want to shoot jumpers sort of deal. He was forcing the issue at the basket. He was getting to the free throw line. He was getting rebounds. That was a really big difference, I thought, and Karl-Anthony Towns looking somewhat meek in the third game of the series as well.
And we've talked a lot in this series about Wemby kind of having slow starts. Not last night, 9 points in the first 5 minutes of this thing, 32 on 11 of 18 shooting overall, filled the stat sheet, 8 boards, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Second youngest player ever, by the way, with a 30-piece, 5 rebounds, 5 assists in an NBA Finals game. Only Magic Johnson did it younger. And speaking to that youth, right? We think about him being 22 years old, Steph Castle, 21, Dylan Harper, only 20. They are the youngest cumulative team in the NBA Finals based on like weighted time played, right? Of anybody that we've seen since 1977. And yet, I feel like they've gotten better each game of this series. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've just been, I don't know if they've gotten better. They've just been, I think, just pretty good throughout this entire run. They don't seem like it's too big for them, I think. Did you see, you would enjoy this, did you see what Harper said yesterday about the environment at MSG and Jay-Z? How he, behind the scenes, had, I think he was getting ready for the game, whatever it was, but Jay-Z walked by him, and Harper just would look the other way and walked away. Like, didn't want to act like this was a big deal. So, like, to that point, I mean, they're all pretty mature. Steph Castle was asked yesterday, hey, do you think you're the most mature on the team? To which he said, like, well, you know, I don't go to bed like at 9 like Victor does, so it's probably him. But look, these guys get it. They're very well coached as well. Johnson does a pretty good job. So I don't think moment-wise, whatever you want to call it, it's not too big of a deal. I think the other thing, and it's fitting that you put it in the rundown there, you know, road, sweet road, as you put it, home teams now just 46 and 37 straight up in the postseason, covering just about a 54% clip, 54.2%. Per 100 possessions and non-garbage time, teams are only outscoring their opponents at home by 1.7 points per 100 possessions. So home court has not really been that strong. And I think it's now 5 straight games for these teams, Knicks and Spurs. The road team has won in those games.
Yep.
So this is going to be something where, man, like the Knicks, this is a big game 4. Because obviously you'd much rather go back to San Antonio up 3-1 as opposed to a 2-2 set.
And we can talk a little bit more about this when we come back from the break as well. Looking ahead to that game 4, the Knicks 1.5 point favorites, minus 125 on the money line. Same total as well at that 216.5. And after losing the 1.5 on New York yesterday, do I need to go back to the well? Hopefully you can help me answer that question. And we've got some sound from the post game as well to get into. Stick around. We're just getting started here on this Tuesday edition of Money Moves.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Spurs had a bounce back in the Big Apple last night. For all of the people in New York that paid those big ticket prices just to see a loss, probably a little bit of a rough ending last night. 115-111, San Antonio gets it done to cut into that series deficit after falling down 2-0 at home. What was your biggest takeaway from last night, all in all?
I mean, I think outside of the obvious, which is when Victor Wembanyama plays well, the Spurs are going to play well.
That'll
which
do
is,
it.
I mean, right, which is true. I mean, he had I think his best game of the series. I don't think there's really any question. They were ultimately able to win the game. Because this was a talking point after yesterday, and I don't mean to make this out to be this is the reason why the Spurs won. Having said that, if the Knicks are going to be limited in the way they play physically, especially on defense with Wembanyama and the Spurs, then that's going to put a damper on how they've been able to defend them to this extent. We talked about this yesterday a little bit at length a couple of times, right? First off, just ourselves, and then we had our guest, Jacob Tobel, who does play-by-play for the San Antonio Spurs. And we brought it up at the end of our spot with him, which is OG Anunoby has not been going over or under screens with Victor Wembanyama. He's been going through them. When Wembanyama rolls to the basket, the Knicks have been just kind of throwing a body at him, kind of popping him on the way to the basket, not giving him clean releases, taking away lobs, things like that. Tim Bontemps and Brian Windhorst had a great stat. I think it was McMahon maybe as well that had it, which is, I believe last night they had 3 lobs up to Victor Wembanyama. That was how many he had in the first 2 games. I'm ballparking that, So again, he had more lobs essentially is the whole point here in this game that he had in the first 2 games of the series. That is part of what we're talking about here. But it's also part of the way the game was called yesterday, Stormy. There was look, there was some crappy officiating yesterday, I think, to an extent. I don't think it was the reason why the Knicks lost either.
That replay of Wemby on Brunson.
I mean, it's both of them, right? It's that, and then it's Steph Castle going
in the corner.
His objective is to go through Jalen Brunson there. It is not to do anything else. It is to go through him. That's not ruled a flagrant. But then when Brunson, I believe it was, that closes out on, I think it was Vassell or whoever it was, that's ruled a flagrant.
In what fully looked like an accident, there was nothing intentional about that.
But that to me is going to be one of them. And Landry Shamet talked about this after the game.
Also, to me, it looked like he would have had enough room.
Sure, trust me, I'm with you. I didn't really get it at all. But it's going to be at least important, the way these games are called, as we discussed yesterday. And it was called a little bit differently yesterday. But Shamet, I thought, had a good answer yesterday as to why. Like, look, man, like, it doesn't really matter. We've got to take care of business. We see this all the time.
No, I mean, we made some uncharacteristic kind of stupid plays defensively tonight. We got to keep them off the foul line. The officials are going to do their thing. There's questionable calls every night. That's not something new. We can't sit here and make excuses and say, there was too much of a, whatever. Like, we got to look in the mirror and get better, and we'll do that. And everybody on this team, from head coach to front office to whatever, is going to do that, and that's what we plan to do starting tomorrow.
For Brunson specifically, knowing how physical San Antonio is going to play him, what is he supposed to do? How do you answer that? Or is this because it's been brought to the attention so much and we're seeing so many players talk about it? Mike Brown really getting on the soapbox about it, of course, as well, to call attention to it from the officials. Do you think we see a change in Game 4?
I mean, we might. That's part of the it's part of the game, isn't it? It's always, hey, these officials do it all the time. I'm sure they do it in hockey, or actually these coaches, where it's afterwards, they specifically point out and harp, and maybe they take a little bit of a fine or whatever it is, and then the next game, all of a sudden, those things are getting called a little bit more. And it's important for Brunson, too. Look at his 3 games in this series so far. He is averaging 27 points so far in this series. He's shooting 37% from the floor. He has, I think it's 83 points on 80 shots, or it might be the reverse, but he is not performing very well from a points per shot attempt standpoint. He's averaging just under a point per shot attempt so far in this series. So that might be part of it. I mean, they've been playing him really physical. They've been getting up on him. They have bigger defenders for him, so it hasn't been as efficient for him either. And so if you start to get those calls a little bit more, then maybe Brunson is going to have a little bit better of an opportunity to kind of get his game going here. But again, it is not the end-all, be-all. It is not the reason why, because I know a lot of people probably start to get angry about this. It's not the reason why the Spurs won. But this will impact the way these games are going to be played and the result of them going forward if they're going to be called a little bit tighter, or if some of the stuff against Brunson and vice versa against Wemby is going to start to get called here as we move forward, too.
Should I bet New York -1.5 again tomorrow?
I'm thinking about going back to the well. I mean, I don't think it's going to move too much, but the non-data spot is, they were going to put their best foot forward yesterday. Desperation, down 2-0. Again, home court has not really been that strong at all. We've seen the Spurs team win on the road as well. So then now you get that, but you come back in Game 4. Karl Anthony Towns demands a little bit more in terms of his ability to play down low. Jalen Brunson finally has a game.
Yeah.
And in front of your home crowd, which again, you're now 6-2, but you're 6-2 with the best non-garbage time net rating among all teams in the postseason so far. That would make some sense that you're able to get this win tomorrow if you're the New York Knicks. And the total, too. I mean, don't you feel like you deserve a better fate if you bet these games over? Maybe not so much Game 1, but the last 2. I mean, you had stretches where it looked like these teams were going to get over there, and all of a sudden they just die, and you can't really get there. Falls right on 216. Now, I know it closed, 215.5 in some spots. Some spots were at 216, so I feel like we're waiting for one of those blow-up games as well.
Isn't that 226?
Am I an idiot? Yeah, I am an idiot. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I did my math incorrectly. This was the game that went over the total finally, is what I should say, and that you were expecting a big blow up, and that maybe
we will continue to get those
that,
going forward. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But let's shift gears now. Last couple minutes into the Stanley Cup Final that we do have Game 4 going on tonight. It's all right. Math usually isn't my strong suit, so I'm impressed with myself, to be honest with you right now. Vegas up 2-1 right now. Obviously, they took Game 1 in Raleigh. Carolina had the bounce back. Then they take Game 1 in Vegas. Carolina, do they have the bounce back again today? They are favored to do so. -115. Vegas available -105 on the money line. And this is something that we have seen the Hurricanes do time and time again throughout the course of the season. And of course, in both instances that they've lost in the playoffs to this point. But they have not lost back-to-back games since January 12th and 13th of the regular season. Big question, as we referenced in the first block today, what is Rod Brind'Amour ultimately going to do in net? Frederick Anderson has been your workhorse throughout the entirety of the postseason until he got in the second period last game. Brandon Bussey steps in the third period, handles the entire workload throughout the double overtime, and the lone goal that ends up getting scored on him is such a fluky, bizarro world goal where Shea Theodore hits the puck off of the end boards, it bounces in, and because Bussey plays a little bit more out of his crease, it bounces on his skate and in, game over. Rod Brind'Amour was asked yesterday where he sits on the goaltending situation and if he's made a decision.
Have you made any decisions yet on where you'll go with that?
Yep. I think I'll keep it quiet. There's the only suspenseful thing around here that I have to hold on to. So it seems to have taken a life of its own, so I kind of enjoy it. But yes, it was a maintenance day for him.
And I'll say it does at least give you something if you're Rod Brind'Amour to force the preparation on both sides to an extent, because Bussey does catch with the different glove. He is a little bit more athletic, a little bit more aggressive. I mentioned in that goal that was scored on him, he was a little bit out of his crease. He does tend to get out of his crease a little bit more. Freddie Anderson sits back a little bit more. So when we have Eric Johnson on the program a little bit later on, I'm very curious to get his opinion on what the differences are when you have to prepare for a goalie who plays a little bit differently and what that could mean for Vegas tonight.
Okay, this is going to sound, I'm going to ask, a stupid question. But you've been playing against Freddie Anderson for a couple of games now. You understand his tendencies. Is it really that big of a disadvantage for Vegas if you're playing this game? Isn't Vegas just preparing for Bussey? And then if not, we're busting out the Anderson game plan?
You're still fine. We'll just let Mitch Marner do what he's doing.
What is Freddie Anderson going to realistically change about the way he plays goaltender if he gets another start today? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand it. I guess the gamesmanship to an extent.
They're already prepared for Freddie, so why not just prep for
so,
Bussey?
You're getting ready for Bussey, and then if it's Anderson, you're like, all right, cool, bust out the Andy game plan, which has worked very well so far.
Sure. Do you have have you changed your tune at all from yesterday? Do you still think that it should be Frederick Anderson, or have you changed your tune?
It's like one of those things. I'll take the same, approach that I did with you when it came to the total in the baseball game yesterday, which is just, I disagree, but I'm not wholeheartedly going to. I think Freddie got a little. I was going to say a word that I think might have got dumped. I think he was putting
movie title.
Yeah, I think he was put in a bad spot at times. Has he played particularly well? No. But I would say, and
he's
to
played
your point,
particularly poorly.
Right. But I would say to your point about asking Eric Johnson about this a little bit later, which is if you got him by surprise by popping Bussey in for the third period, but getting time to get ready for him and having him start this game is, I think, a completely different thing. And to assume that it's just going to be better, I wouldn't assume that.
In terms of the numbers, entering the Cup Final, Frederick Anderson was 12-1, 141 goals against, 931 save percentage, both best in the playoffs, but wasn't really tested a lot. We talked about the lack of shot volume that was really coming his way. This series, 1-2, 444 goals against, 815 save percentage. He's got 349 goals below expected saved at this point, which doesn't include the fact that, as we brought up yesterday, the 3 goals that were also ended up being disallowed that did find the back of his net in those situations, though. It's just in my opinion, I feel like you ride the hot hand. I did see ESPN's Greg Wyshynski, however, say that his thought process is it's going to be Freddie Anderson today. Yep. Senses the loyalty element that there is from Rod Brind'Amour, wants to give him that chance.
Tortorella's doing it. I mean, again, as I asked with him, when I asked Jonathan Davis, we're not talking about Carter Hart the same way we're talking about Freddie A.
I think it's different, though. I think
he stunk.
Carter Hart is very clearly Tort's guy. I don't think that Rod Brind'Amour sees that because it was such a true divide in the regular season.
Sure, but what I'm saying is I think there is an odd benefit to sticking with a guy even while he's not playing well.
Sure. Again, we'll talk about this more a little bit later on, but if you are looking to bet Game 4 in the NBA Finals, by the way, Polymarket lets you react in real time, cash out before the final buzzer, unlike traditional sports books where you're locked in until the game ends. Get started with a free $50 using the promo code BUZZ at Polymarket today. BUZZ for $50 free. Trading not available in all jurisdictions. Check it out today.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
nation has been entrenched in the Stanley Cup and NBA Finals this past week. The globe will have its focus on the World Cup in short order. The action out there on the pitch set to get underway Thursday, which, good reminder, don't miss your chance to win $1 million. Entries closing Thursday at 3 Eastern. Splash Sports is offering $1 million guaranteed in a high-stakes survivor contest. $1,000 to enter, but $1 million on the line. You can only use a team once. Pick wisely from the group stage all the way through the knockout rounds. Outlast everyone else, and the million is yours. Right now, new players using promo code VSIN, that's VSIN, will get a 50% deposit match up to $100, a free quick picks entry up to $20, plus a 100% quick picks payout boost on an entry up to $20 as well. Again, entries close Thursday, June 11, 3 p.m. Eastern. Don't wait. Splashsports.com/VSIN, code VSIN, must be 21 or older, available in select states only. As we welcome you back here to Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And we're going to break down a little bit more of the World Cup at large. Excited to have Anthony Dabbundo join us here on the Progressive Guest Line, doing great work at The Ringer as a writer and host. Check out The Ringer Gambling Podcast, covers several sports, but somebody who is very, very dialed into all things soccer. So we're going to have your soccer analyst hat on today. On a scale of 1 to the most excited you've been about a sporting event, where does this one sit for you?
The most excited I've ever been about a sporting event, without question. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to get underway Thursday. It's going to be a very long month, but won't be sleeping much. That's for sure.
So, Anthony, I'm curious, before we get to some of your actual plays, just a general thought. You're reading a lot about the Heat, the impact on some of these players. How does that manifest in some of these matches we're going to start watching in a couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, it gets started right away. Mexico is going to be playing in the heat, in the elevation, in their very first game. And I do think that, the one thing that I think will mitigate some of the heat, the fatigue a little bit, is that traditionally the World Cup, you play every 4 days. But because of the expanded field, the field has been stretched. Teams are going to be playing every 6 or 7 days now. So you'll get extra time to recover. But certainly, within matches, with the 5 subs rule, you get more opportunity to showcase your depth if you're one of the big nations. And because of the fact that 32 teams advance from the group stage, a lot of these top teams can maybe even load manage their way through the group stage to make sure they're fully ready for the knockouts.
I'm sure this is a pretty common question you've been getting asked as we lead up to the World Cup, but realistically, in your mind, how many teams are there that are really capable of going on to winning it all? I mean, getting there is one thing, but really being the World Cup champ when all is said and done.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because we've only ever had 7 countries that are in this field lift the World Cup trophy. And one of them is Uruguay, who won it way back when in the 1930s. So really in the modern era of soccer, we've had 6. And they are at the top of the odds board. They're 6 of the top 7 favorites for this event. So generally speaking, when Morocco had their historic run and they beat Belgium and they beat Spain and they beat Portugal and they became the most successful African team ever, they still only got to the semis, right? Which I think just kind of illustrates how tough it is to make a run as one of the smaller nations that isn't one of those elites. Now, I split the top 6 of this field into contenders and pretenders. And I see Spain, France, England, and Argentina as the contenders, and Brazil and Portugal as a little bit of the pretenders on the back end of kind of the contenders list, because I have major questions about both in terms of their talent level, in terms of what we're getting from Cristiano Ronaldo.
All right, well, let's build on that with Portugal. They are $2 favorites to win their group. In that group, Colombia, Dominican Republic, I think of Congo, and then Uzbekistan. How do we do this group? How do we play this with such a heavy favorite at the top?
Yeah, so Portugal and Colombia, probably the most exciting game of the entire group stage. They're going to play in the final game in Miami. So going to be a raucous crowd for that one. A lot of fans for both teams, probably pro-Colombia crowd, if anything, for that one. But I look at what this Portugal team is in the modern kind of iteration of it, and everybody looks at that midfield with Bruno Fernandes, who just broke the Premier League assist record at Manchester United, with Vitinha, who just won Man of the Match in the Champions League final for PSG, with João Neves, who plays next to Vitinha at PSG. And they're like, holy cow, this PSG, group combining with Fernandes, that's an incredible midfield. They're so talented. But then you look at the rest of the team here, and yes, there's talented players all over, but can they solve the Ronaldo problem? And what the Ronaldo problem is that they have relied so much on him throughout qualifying, throughout the last decade, even though it's maybe not optimal for him to be playing and starting and going the full 90 minutes because he doesn't have the legs anymore. And really, Ronaldo's style doesn't really enable Portugal to get the best out of their own midfield because they rely so much on crossing to try to serve Ronaldo in the penalty area that they're not getting Fernandes playing those high-risk passes in behind and stuff like that. So I really think that Portugal is a little bit their ceiling is a little bit lower than it could be because of how much they rely on Ronaldo. Ronaldo would be a perfect super sub, but playing him like 90 minutes, this is like not, I think, an optimal thing. Their left winger, Rafi Leao, he's not been great. So I think Colombia is very live to win the group. They're very organized defensively. They know what they are. They have very defined roles, which I don't think Portugal does. So Colombia is 2-1. There's some plus 250s out there on them to win that group, Group K. And I think they're going to be very live to do that.
Anthony Dabbundo of The Ringer joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, talking all things World Cup set to get underway Thursday. Can you take us through some of the other group winners that you have in mind and what those odds might be paired with them?
Yeah, let's go to Group B, where the highest floor, lowest ceiling, and most reliable team in international soccer sits, and that's the Swiss. Switzerland has been into the knockout stage of each of the last 4 World Cups. They've been to the knockout stage in each of the last few European championships as well. And we kind of know what we're getting from Switzerland. They are very structured in possession. They are very sure of what they are. They're a solid defensive team. They don't have any game-breaking attackers. They don't have any superstar level players where you are really turning heads to say, oh my gosh, I need to watch Switzerland today because I need to see this person. The days of Xherdan Shaqiri's beautiful left foot are over. But this Swiss team is still really reliable. And in this group, Canada's the host. They're getting some market love because of that. But Canada's in a bit of an injury crisis now. Bombito, their starting center back, he's out. Flores, one of their main midfielders, is out. Alphonso Davies, who is far and away their best player, is unlikely to play in the first couple of group matches. He might come back at the end, but he's not fit right now, and he hasn't played soccer in a while. So I think there's real questions about that. I think Canada is a team that maybe is a little overvalued coming into this tournament as a result. And I think the Swiss are minus 120, minus 125 to win that group. I mean, I have them closer to 60%, and I'm going to ride the Swiss until the wheels come off, which will probably happen in the round of 16.
Any other group winners that are on your mind?
Yeah, the Dutch come in as kind of like the best of the rest, and that's kind of always been their place in the modern, soccer ecosphere. They've been runners up at this tournament so many times. They were in the European Championship semifinals 2 years ago. I have questions about what the Dutch look like in terms of their tactics and their midfield as well. They're a little bit limited athletically. They don't have a ton of passing range either. I think it's like a pretty interesting midfield if you had a more robust pressing system around them, but they don't really press. Their defense has kind of faltered throughout most of qualifying here. So I like the Dutch in some ways, but I think they're vulnerable to a very specific kind of team. And that specific kind of team is Japan. And Japan is not, again, the most talented team in this field, but they're deep. They press. They're going to play the Dutch in the first game. I think Japan's, they're like plus 250 to win that group. Which is pretty similar to the money line price. I think Japan's pretty live there. A little bit down on Sweden as well in that group. So I think this is the kind of group where if you're going to see some real chaos, maybe it happens here. Tunisia wouldn't surprise me if they pulled off a result or two as well in that group. But I think Japan is a little bit cheap to win. I can't even keep track of all the group letters at this point. I think it's Group F.
Yep.
Yes.
Group F. Yeah, that sounds about right. I know who's in which group, but like the letters are kind of thrown out.
Before we let you go, there are going to be a lot of people, I'm sure, that are watching the World Cup this week that have not watched soccer all year long, but want to cheer on Team USA. What are they going to get when they flip on USA games?
Yeah, it's kind of like in to just diss the United States all the time and talk about how much they stink and how they're no good and they're a bunch of frauds and we're no good at soccer. I have a serious, cautious optimism about this group and what they can do. Now, the two things you need to know is that this is by far the most balanced group. I ranked all the teams 1 to 48 in my numbers and in a power rankings piece that'll be up at the Ringer tomorrow. I have the U.S. 18th, first place in their group, and I have Australia last at 31st. So we're talking about a very small margin between first place and last place. That means a lot of things. One, they should have pretty competitive and entertaining and interesting matches. They're not just playing a bunch of teams they have no chance against or teams they're going to bully. That's not the case in this group. Paraguay is very good defensively. Turkey is very good offensively. So you kind of have a clashing styles matchup when they're going to need to, grind it out against Paraguay, but then Turkey, that game should be more open in the final group game. But I have a lot of optimism about the U.S. because one of the biggest issues for this U.S. team, why they have struggled so much in the last 4 years for results, has been that they have very rarely had all of their players healthy at the same time. McKennie, Adams, Pulisic, Dest, Balogun, and Robinson have very rarely all played together. And guess what? We are 2-3 days from the U.S. opener, and it looks like Chris Richards is going to play, and it looks like the U.S. is going to have all of their best players healthy, and that lineup is a very competitive team that could make a run at this tournament.
You love to hear it if you're an American tuning into the World Cup this week. Anthony, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Anthony Dabbundo. Again, make sure you check out all the work over there at The Ringer Gambling Podcast. You can follow him on X as well, at Anthony Dabbundo. We got to step aside. More Money Moves coming up after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Had a great conversation last segment with Anthony Dabbundo of The Ringer, talking all things World Cup. Remember, if you missed any of the show, you can always go listen on your own time wherever you download your podcast. And as we were I was sad we ran out of time in our discussion because there are so many things that I still want to ask him about. So we're going to have more World Cup guests as we go throughout the course of the week. But like, I have bets that I think I want to make, but I need that kind of confirmation bias in a sense, which I know you hate about me.
Yeah. You just ask for confirmation. Just do it.
But it's a sport that I don't follow like that. So I want to.
But you do it in the sports that you do follow.
That's true too.
You do that with me with hockey. I'm just like, yeah, I guess.
Well,
Forecheck's really strong.
I'm feeling chalky in the World Cup, right? So I was trying to look for an angle on France or Kylian Mbappe to have the golden boot for most goals, 6-1. I was also curious if -145, because he's somebody who's favored for the whole tournament to lead in goals, if -145 was actually cheap for him to lead France in goals. So I'm going to have to bug some people throughout the course of the week to see what they think on this, because there are some bets that I really want to make, but I want them to be a little bit more educated than just me going with my gut.
I bet Erling Haaland to lead the World Cup in goals. So that's all I got so far.
What were the odds?
12-1.
Okay. All right. Harry Kane as well. Another good option for you.
As Alex Blowers, one of our behind-the-scenes guys, who
Blowers?
also... it is not. He will correct you on that. Yeah. You just assume that because he's British. Yep. Yeah, like Glassblower.
No, so the reason that this comes to my attention today is because
he told me.
No, can I just say the reason this is coming to mind was because I was driving to a meeting this morning and I had a numbers game on, and Kelly and Gil had this whole conversation, and Kelly came in and said it's Blowers.
From the Brit himself.
So now I'm just so well. They went back and forth on it, and then they came back from a break, readdressed it, and said it's Blowers. So I thought he asked him.
From the Brit himself, it's Blowers. Yes.
All right. The more you know.
I'll put $100 on it.
I'm just telling you, that was the conversation I heard as I was in my car driving to a meeting this morning.
It was an incorrect conversation. Anyways, I don't even know what my point was going to be. You derailed me to the point where...
Wasn't important.
Oh, it was Harry Kane. He is still relatively high on Harry Kane, and we were talking about this actually in the same conversation we had about his last name, about just some of the things you could bet on in this tournament, and Kane has been somewhat saving himself by playing out there in Germany because it's a lighter league schedule, and he's still got a lot of pop. And so that Kane could potentially, I believe the term I was told from Alex was he's a good, which, you know.
I think what I might do too is pair some of these group winner favorites together. Like I was even just looking while we were on air with Anthony since he likes Switzerland so much, pairing that up with England, and it was like +145. Mm-hmm. So potentially a couple little things there. We'll talk more World Cup as we go. Do want to get back into the NBA and NHL Stanley Cup Finals as we go here, because we have been updating after each game our MVP ladder and Conn Smythe ladder, and now that we are getting closer to having a result here, things are getting a little bit more interesting. Let's start in the NBA.
Yep.
How's your ladder shaking out right now?
Pretty much the same at the top. That's where we can start, which I'm sure a lot of people will be like, that's not right. And again, full disclosure, we've got Karl-Anthony Towns at 22-1 to win MVP. So if you think that it is altering the way that I view this, then I would say you are wrong. I am putting this together the proper way and the best way that anybody in the world has. So MVP ladder for me, Karl-Anthony Towns, still number one so far if you're ranking these guys to win finals MVP. Now, here's the thing. The reason why is they are up 2-1 in the series. So again, more than likely, a Knick will win if they win the series. With a 2-1 series leading the game coming at home, it is more likely that a Knick is going to take this thing. So Towns is still number one, which leads you to, and I think you mentioned this at the top of the show, might be the buy low-ish opportunity for Towns. Yes, you could have gotten him at 22-1 to win this award at the beginning of the series, but we are not there anymore, and so you have to decide what you want to do. And I would argue this might be the point to dive in if you don't have anything. If you think the Knicks can win this series, again, they're not going to do it unless Karl-Anthony Towns is going to have a strong series. Case in point, the first 2 games, where he was very good in the first 2 games. They end up winning them, and ultimately, he is still their best player. So far, in this postseason, or excuse me, in this NBA Finals, still leads the entire series in plus minus. The Knicks are plus 31 when he is on the floor against the San Antonio Spurs. He has so far put up 50 points. He's grabbed them 33 rebounds. In fact, leads the series in rebounding as well. Has done a good job shooting 51% from the floor. He is going to be the key for New York, and his workload in the first 2 games, despite a quiet game yesterday in a loss, I believe still puts him in front of Jalen Brunson. I will give reasons as to why, but you have something to say.
That word that you used is one that Charles Barkley has used repeatedly about Karl-Anthony Towns, is that he's going to be the key to how this thing is going to go one way or the other. And so to your point, the fact that he has his down game in a loss, but the games that he has performed well, they have won, I think pairs well with that. And we had this conversation off air, but the reason that I brought up this being a buy low point on Karl-Anthony Towns is because I wanted to bet it. And here in Vegas, we don't have those options. We don't have the updated MVP finals or Conn Smythe available for people that update those odds for us to bet here in Vegas. So if you can do it, I think, that 5-1 available is extremely attractive on Towns.
Now, the reason why Brunson is beneath him, even though the odds don't reflect that, at plus 105, both the DraftKings and FanDuel, is I can't get over 2 things in Brunson's resume so far. The first of which is Brunson is shooting just 37% from the floor in this series. He has 82 points on 81 shots. He has not been efficient at all in any way. He had a better game yesterday, but still, he has not found any sort of flow. That should count against him. Stormy, he has the 5th worst plus minus among players in this series. They've been outscored by 13 points in his time on the floor through 3 games.
He has a 13 assist to 13 turnover ratio as well, if you want to throw that in there.
Correct. So while you can say, well, he closed out game 1 and he had the big bucket in game 2, those are facts, malicious facts, but facts nonetheless. Those also, I don't think, outweigh the larger body of work that Karl-Anthony Towns has put together that has allowed this team to come forth and win this series. So or potentially win the series, I should say, and take their lead that they have. With that, ladder plays out as you would expect. Victor Wembanyama comes in at number 3. If the Spurs win this series, he's going to win Finals MVP. I don't think
is it worth the 5-cent difference to bet him for MVP versus betting the Spurs just to win? Because that's all the difference is in the pricing.
I mean, I think they're almost, the Venn diagram there is pretty much a complete circle. So yeah, if you're getting a little bit more bang for your buck one way or the other, if you think it's going to happen, I would do it, because why would you turn down 5 cents? Just take it. So Wembanyama plus 165. Don't really need to make the statistical case. Yesterday he was great. As they go, he goes, and so that's going to be, I think, the way this plays out. Now, how it changes is we've changed up the order here at the end. If you remember, after the last couple of games, we talked about the ladder. Josh Hart was a part of this. We had Julian Champagnie as a part of this. Well, Stephon Castle makes his way onto the board. Castle was great yesterday, really went after Brunson. By the way, another slight against Jalen Brunson is the fact that he is slight, and so that you can go after him when he is playing on defense. Castle has done that many times, and he did it a lot yesterday. Castle finds his way at number 4. And then what a game from OG Anunoby yesterday. I mean, the guy was absolutely fantastic. He is having a really good series, but yesterday was kind of the breakout game for him, was attacking Victor Wembanyama off the bounce, getting overly aggressive Wembanyama was on closeouts. So Anunoby made him pay, was hitting 3-point shots, was defending extremely well. He breaks it at number 5. He's 45 or 40-1. But I think personally, look, you're drawing a line after number 3 here. Yes, we're ranking our top 5 Finals MVP candidates, but realistically, when this series ends, if it's not any one of Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, or Victor Wembanyama to win Finals MVP, I would be astonished.
Okay. For me, on the Conn Smythe side of things, I'll just go through my 1 through. I listed out 8, but there's probably not that many realistically. But for Carolina, I really don't know.
You listed out 9.
Mitch Marner at the top, Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, Frederick Anderson, Nikolai Ehlers, Jackson Blake, Brett Howden, Jack Eichel,
You
Shea
still got
Theodore.
Frederick Anderson that high?
So I think that
is there a gaping chasm between 4 and 5?
I did this specifically to gauge your opinion on this. If he does end up starting tonight, pitches a couple shutouts and finds his game, is that is that worth a 50-1 shot because no one else has separated themselves as a skater?
I would say possibly, because again, Conn Smythe, as you say, is the entirety of the postseason.
Correct.
So if he's got, look, it's a long postseason. You got some bumps on the road. But if they close this series out and he reverts back to the form of the first, 13 games or whatever it was, that's a really strong resume. And at 50-1, come on now.
I do think there's a world, and we talked about this yesterday, in which Mitch Marner wins despite being on the losing team. If he continues to be an impact player in this series, he's made history at numerous sides of this, but I think that that's a worthwhile argument to be made. Taylor Hall is your next shortest shot for the Carolina Hurricanes, plus 475. He has 11 fewer points than Marner, 4 fewer goals. He's playing on a line that's had a lot of success, but splits the production among 3 guys. So what are you
can't help but notice a name? You have 9 players listed here. 9. And yet I don't see Carter Hart.
No, well, I mean, he was taken off of the list when he deserved to be number 2 on it. So I don't really know where you want me to go with that to begin with, but I was just
out of curiosity.
I think at this point, and you'll see on that list how many Carolina Hurricanes there are after Mitch Marner. I think at this point, if Vegas wins, period, Mitch Marner is your winner. Championship season is here, and with that, VSiN Pro can help you bet it all smarter. We've got an early bird pricing on our football season special right now for $175. And the cool thing about that is you sign up now thinking ahead to football. You get our football betting guide, but you get all of the coverage each and every day for the NBA and NHL Stanley Cup Finals, the World Cup, MLB all summer long. And again, June 22nd, the release date for our NFL betting guide and all the coverage leading up to the season in the NFL and college football. VSiN.com/subscribe is how you can come join us. The earlier you do it, the more bang for your buck you get.